is with us. And we also have Jenny Reed. She is the early childhood person. And we are very excited to start our first for the 2004-2005 school year, the first parent training series. And this time we're doing all things behavioral for FBAs, BIPs, manifestation meetings, and more. So we're very excited to have Jordan here with us from Tennessee Voices. And I would ask for you to leave your microphones off and your cameras off while we're doing the presentation. You're welcome to share reactions or put questions into the chat box. And we should have about a 15-minute period that we will, well, actually, Jordan will be taking questions and sharing more information. Thank you so much, Jordan. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Yep, like Sue said, my name is Jordan Buchanan. I'm an outreach specialist and family support specialist with Tennessee Voices under the statewide Family Support Network program. And yeah, happy to be here and thank you all. So let's talk about all things behavior in the educational setting. So children they don't wake up one day and decide that they want to be bad that day, and just like us as adults, we don't decide that we're going to go to work and not do what's expected of us. If our bosses constantly told us that we were terrible employees, it's not likely that we would try harder to be better at our jobs. And our kids are the same way. Just like us, they want to be told what's expected and that they're doing a great job and their efforts are appreciated. On this next slide, we have a short video that gives a good understanding of behaviors our children and we ourselves experience.
Okay, we're not hearing her this time, Jordan.
Let's see. There we go. Yeah.
One thing you should always
You got
ask
it.
yourself, when I say behavior, it's not that we're all working with kids who have terrible behaviors, right? We're not. However, every action is referred to as a behavior. Kids don't do their work, kids sleep, kids swear, kids tantrum, kids go under the desk, knock over chairs, vocalizing, saying no, hitting or hurting themselves, all right, depending upon the population of kids you work with. Those are behaviors. One of the things you got to remember is that behaviors are symptoms. Keep that in your head. They're symptoms. They are the things that we can see that should light up our brains and make us say, what's the function of that? What are they getting from it? What's the function? What are they getting from it? Every single one of you in this room has behaviors every day. You all demonstrate behaviors. Some of you came here early today. Why did you come here early? What was the function? To get the seat you wanted. All right? Some of you brought your coffee with you. What was the function? To stay awake. Every behavior serves a function. Some of you set an alarm last night so you could get up on time. I always set 2 alarms because I'm a little paranoid. Every behavior. So we're not necessarily talking about bad behaviors. We're talking about, in general, what human beings do. So you've got to have a function behind that. So when kids do something outrageous or something weird, you're like, what's the function of that? What are you getting from that? When a child who has a cognitive diagnosis such as autism, and they have very little language, because we know that the autism spectrum is very large, but children have very little language, when they start to lose it and they want to avoid or get away from what's stressing them, what do? They might act out, they might scream, they might tantrum, they might start to hurt themselves, they might try to run out of the room. And that should be an indicator that we should say, seeking avoidance because we've overwhelmed them. We've asked them to go to all these classes, keep it together, blah, 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 get their break time, but they couldn't handle it. So they're saturated. They don't have the ability to say to us, and here's the kicker, very few of our kids have the ability to say to us, ma'am, sir, my cognitive memory right now is really stressed. I'm having a hard time with all of this sensory stuff that's come at me today. It's a little bit cold out, some things happened, whatever. So if you could just give me some coping skills prior to when this happens to me, I will do less throwing of chairs and I will use more coping skills. They don't say that to us. If that's happened to you, then congratulations, you've done your job. But until kids can come to us and say, I'm reaching my saturation point, I'm not sure what to do, not just because they want to get out of their work, but real stuff, then we keep working on that. These behaviors are all indicators. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe.
All right. Does anyone have any thoughts or anything they'd like to share from the video? Okay.
So you never.
All right. So, huh?
Assembly meeting in New York the same thing.
I'm sorry. Did somebody have a question or? Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's discuss the impact if we change the behavioral climate in the school system. So changing the behavioral climate, you'll see an increase in academic performance, on-task behavior, parent, student, and staff satisfaction and staff retention. You'll also see a decrease in disruptive classroom behaviors, office referrals, suspensions, and detentions. So we'll now discuss how we may change the behavioral climate in the classroom through the functional behavioral assessments. So a functional behavioral assessment is an evaluation that focuses on the antecedents and motivation for a student's behavior, as well as examining the frequency, location, and effect of interventions used in the past. It's a powerful evaluative tool in collecting and analyzing data to develop a systematic, individualized intervention and behavior management plan. It focuses on what the behavior is, what the student is trying to accomplish by the behavior, and it assists with looking at how often it is happening, where it is happening, and the outcome of the interventions currently being used. So here are two reasons we would need to use an FBA. So we would need to use one when the behaviors are impeding the learning of the youth or others in the classroom, or when current interventions are not working. The key to creating a plan that will eliminate undesirable behaviors in a way that is supportive and positively reinforcing is understanding the motive behind the behavior and why the child continues to engage in it. So here are the steps for the FBA process. Typically, the process begins with a referral to the IEP 504 S or M team. An S team stands for school support team, and an M team stands for multidisciplinary team. Both teams develop a plan of instructional interventions and accommodations to meet the student's needs within the general program. And an important note, a child does not have to have an IEP or 504 to have an FBA completed. So in the process, there will be teacher interviews. Behaviors named need to be very specific and make sure they list as a behavior something that you can see and count. You want them to provide a list of student strengths as well as weaknesses. One of the questions on the FBA asks about the student's favorite things to do, which is asking about desired reinforcers not misbehavior. And then there'll be also be parent interviews, and this could be done by phone or in person. The parent interview will discuss topics such as family history, birth and developmental history, medical and health history, and behavioral and social history. And then student assisted interviews will be done. If the student's reading and writing level does not allow him or her to read the questions, an adult who has a good rapport with the child should read them and write the answers. Students' comments, affect, and disposition, interviewer comments should be noted. And then there's the functional behavioral assessment form. This will be completed by the assessment team after the student observations have been made, interviews conducted, and all information gathered and interpreted. It should include a list of strengths as well as weaknesses. It should include a list of all team members. All student observations should be attached to the FBA form. And then the team will meet and discuss the FBA to decide the next steps. So, we'll define the behavior and be specific and objective. An FBA starts by defining the student's behavior in a specific and objective way. For example, instead of saying the student is defiant, the team might say the student rips up worksheets and doesn't respond when asked to show work in math class. When you are defining the behavior, you want to understand exactly what has occurred without any emotions or opinions involved. So we'll gather and analyze information. So next, the team pulls together information and data about the behavior. It may look at school records, interview school staff who know and work with the student, and screen or test the student. The goal is to answer questions like when and where is this behavior happening? Where is it not happening? How often is the behavior happening? Who is around when it occurs? What tends to happen right before and right after the behavior? The student can also provide this information. Only kids know how they feel in the moment. Asking them to keep track of feelings and emotions helps the team. The team might also note how classmates react. So we'll find out the reason for the behavior. Using the information collected, the team makes their best guess about what's causing their behavior. It may be that the student is trying to escape or avoid something, for example. So we're trying to look for the function of these behaviors. And, so are they trying to tell us something? What are they trying to communicate through these behaviors? So then, after all this is gathered, we'll create a plan. So finally, led by the school psychologist or behavioral specialist, the team creates a plan based on its best guesses and the information gathered. Here's where the school creates the BIP or behavior intervention plan. And this is to teach and encourage positive behaviors by the student. Often as the team learns more, it will need to adjust the plan. So you'll have the teachers involved, administrators, school staff, and parents coming together to create this. So let's talk about behavior plans. We often think of a behavior plan, as if it's, to change the student behaviors, but it's more than that. It's designed to help the student and school staff both. It states what we would like to see happen and the steps to make that happen successfully. So within it, you'll have expected outcomes, the structure, routine, reduce stress, proactive planning, and discussions. So there's two types of behavior plans. You have an informal and formal plan. An informal plan is one that is put in place but may not be in writing. And a formal plan is a written behavior plan or contract. So informal behavior plans can use a variation of strategies that could include points, reward systems, contracts, incentives, or a term you may hear is a token economy. So find out the child's currency and build a reward system around that. So all these plans typically focus on rewarding desirable behaviors with tokens, which can be exchanged for items or privileges, and punishing undesirable behaviors such as destruction or violence by taking away tokens. the key to make any behavior plan is to find out what the child's currency is, what motivates them. So who needs a formal behavior plan? So any student who has been removed from the educational setting through ISS, OSS, expulsion, or had a functional behavioral assessment due to a manifestation meeting. Students with so also students with chronic behavior that removes them from the least restricted environment, even to a special education setting, should be considered for a BIP or behavior plan. So, a behavior intervention plan is a formal written plan that teaches and rewards good behaviors. A formal intervention plan, um, behavior intervention plan, is developed from the FBA and is designed to define the target behavior, replacement behavior, strategies for positive reinforcement, interventions, data collection, method and timeline, consequences, and crisis management if plan if needed. So BIPs are not created for every let's see are not created for every child, every situation, or only students with IEPs or 504 plans. They can be created for any child having a difficult time with behavior. So the BIP identifies the problem behavior, describes why it is happening, what is the use purpose behind the behavior, what is the function of the behavior, and it uses positive strategies to encourage acceptable behavior. And the goals in a behavior plan must be SMART. So a BIP should be SMART. It should be specific, measurable, achievable, results oriented, and time bound. So specific based on the student's present level of academic achievement, functional performance. So based on data, based on it should be measurable. So the progress is objectively determined at frequent data points. So within and it should be achievable. So realistic, related to the most critical needs, results oriented, developed with standards of outcome in mind, and time bound. So a clearly defined time period, beginning and ending dates. So things to consider when implementing a behavior plan. Behavior intervention plans should be used throughout the day. Progress should be tracked and reviewed to see if it's working. So what if the BIP isn't working? So it's time to reassess. So here are a few tips. So do not include the school resource officer or use physical restraint in the behavior intervention plan. The behavior intervention plan is not for emergency interventions. Suggest strategies for the BIP that you think might work for the child. Be sure the behavior intervention plan includes how teachers and the school staff will help the child, not just the skills the child needs to work on. Ask for an FBA or an update to an FBA if the child has been restrained, isolated, or has frequent office referrals or suspensions. So we will next discuss manifestation meetings. So manifestation meetings. The manifestation determination meeting is to ensure that a student with a disability is not discriminated against by imposing disciplinary sanctions for behavior that is a manifestation of his or her disability. So a manifestation meeting is needed when the child has been removed from the classroom for more than 10 consecutive days, such as being placed in an alternative educational setting, or when there's a pattern of behavior resulting in cumulative removals that would exceed 10 days within the school year. So manifestation meetings are not required when a child has been removed for less than 10 consecutive school days and has not had a change of placement, such as an alternative school setting, or being removed from a classroom for a timeout being sent to the principal, or other short absences from the classroom do not count towards the 10 days. An in-school suspension does not count towards the 10 days if the child is given the opportunity to continue to participate in the general curriculum, receive the services specified on the child's IEP or 504, participate with non-disabled peers to the extent they would have in their current placement. So, a manifestation determination meeting must be held within 10 school days of a decision to change the student's placement as a result of an infraction to the school's code of conduct. If the student is placed in an alternative educational setting, pending the manifestation determination review, services consistent with the IEP must be provided. Manifestation reviews must be conducted on as little as 24 hours notice to the parents. The next couple of slides, at the meeting, you'll have the youth, parent, guardian, local education agency, and relevant members of the IEP team. And the next couple of slides are examples of documents completed at the manifestation meetings. So here's an example of a document. So we're going to review the form that would be used at these meetings. So on this form, you have sources of information. You have the discipline action, like history. So the number of days of suspensions or expulsions. The current violation, it'll have a description of what got us here. It'll describe the district policy concerning the behavior, and does the proposed. So it would determine whether the disciplinary action constitutes a change of placement. So are they going to go to an alternative school, etc. Also, if there's been one in the past year, they'll ask that, and they'll also determine whether it's an isolated incident or recurring pattern. We'll see if they have a behavior intervention plan in place, and whether, if not, do an FBA, pursuing one, and the student's disability. So, are there any pertinent or medical or other diagnoses to consider? Is the current evaluation open? So this is the most important part of the meeting. The previous questions just gather data to assist with the manifestation determination. So the most important question is, was the conduct in question caused by the student's disability, or and did it have a direct substantial relationship to the student's disability? And who is at fault? If it was the school, did they fail to implement the student's IEP or 504, or let's see here. Yeah, so if the team should conduct an FBA and create a behavior plan unless one has been recently completed, if they don't have one. If all questions are answered, no, that it wasn't a manifestation of the disability, the conduct is not a manifestation, and the student may be disciplined in a manner consistent with his or her non-disabled peers. However, the student must continue to receive free and appropriate education, fair and appropriate education. Student must have access in another setting to the special education services and access to the general education curriculum during the course of the suspensions and expulsion. So we'll kind of review this. During the manifestation meeting, the team must decide if the conduct in question was caused by or had a direct and substantial relationship to the student's disability, or if the conduct in question was a direct result of the local education agency's failure to implement the IEP. If either condition is true, the conduct subject to disciplinary action would be considered a manifestation of the student's disability. When the conduct is a manifestation of the student's disability, the school must address the behavior through a functional behavioral assessment. A behavior plan must be developed or modified to address the behavior in question. So, a behavior plan. Yeah, let's see. So the student is returned to the placement from which he or she was removed unless the parent and school agree to a change of placement as a part of the modifications of the behavior intervention plan. This does not apply to the IDEA special exemptions clause for drugs, weapons, and serious bodily injury as outlined in the IDEA discipline document. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, is a law that makes available a free, appropriate public education to eligible children with disabilities throughout the nation and ensures special education and related services to those children. The exceptions allow school officials to remove students to interim alternative settings for up to 45 school days, regardless of whether the behavior is a manifestation of the disability. The local education agency must provide services in the alternative setting during any period of removal. When the conduct is not a manifestation of the student's disability, the school may discipline the child just as it would any non disabled child. However, the student must continue to receive services during any period of removal. It is advisable to review and modify as necessary any behavior plan which might be in place to address the conduct so that it does not reoccur. Removal or suspension to an alternative educational setting is, in most cases, a change of placement. The IEP team determines the interim alternative educational settings for services. If the parent or school disagrees with the manifestation meeting, then they can move forward with a due process hearing. You can find out more about due process on page 19 of the Procedural Safeguards Manual. And on the next slide, we have the resources from this presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions on the presentation?
I think it's really beneficial information to
To
have,
have.
just
For sure.
understanding the process and how it works.
For sure.
While you all are thinking, I'm going to mention that in Knox County, a lot of times when we talk about FBAs and BIPs, what we're really saying is BIPs. So if they're talking about a BIP, they're talking about that behavior plan.
Yeah, we there's a lot of acronyms in this world, and
So this is great when it's in-school behavioral responses and those kinds of things. When it hasn't escalated to that point, I know specifically for my daughter, you know, I don't know if anybody else has heard, but they all start out with a number of spoons in their cups, and throughout the school day, you know, somebody takes one of those spoons, and that's how they're getting things from her. By the end of the day, she's all out of spoons. And so the behavioral issues are typically more so once she's at home, out of that environment. Um, one of my concerns is that at some point she's going to get so overwhelmed at school that it's her mechanisms that she has in place right now aren't going to be enough. Are there resources to help kind of bolster her maintenance of that at home, so that way when it gets to that point when she's at school later on, that it doesn't become a true behavioral issue out in public?
Um, yeah, there's I mean, different coping strategies that you can implement and look into, and also just being in communication like with your school team and your teachers and everything just to sort of keep everybody on the same page as far as like supports and things like from the school
Mhm.
would be good to do. If you'd like me to, I can look into that and try to see if I can send you some materials, or I can get those to Sue and she can get those to you. As far as things that you can do at home.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I have a quick survey here. I've got this is the QR code for it, and I've also there's a link to it in the chat. If you would just take a little time and fill it out and get it back to us, I'd really appreciate it.
While you are doing that, I think it's also important to remember, and it's not something that usually makes parents feel better, but a lot of times if a child knows that they need to kind of hold it together during the school time and then they kind of let their hair down when they come home, that means that they understand that that's a safe place for them to do those things. Um, and they also understand the difference between school and home. And so we all act a little bit differently when we're in an environment that we're comfortable and we know that people love us. But I think I like what Jordan said about really thinking about some of those things to help with coping skills. Like, depending on that child's age group, it could be something as simple as doing breathing exercises. We do a lot of things like with candles with elementary school kids that we talk about how breathing, they're pretending that they're blowing out a birthday candle. So they take a big breath in and they let it out. So there's lots of small things that you can do to kind of help children to cope. It's also important to know what also sets your kids off. I always use the example that my mother would tell me to count to 10. Well, that gave me a longer time to think about what I was angry about. So that wasn't a coping skill that worked very well for me. So it's a very insightful question. Are there any other thoughts or concerns? Anything you'd like to share? There's a lot of people who are saying thank you. Felt like you did a good job, Jordan. We do appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I will mention that in the chat box is also that survey, and I always do a plug for our speakers because they are volunteering to do these things. And those surveys are very helpful for them to get funding because I used to work for one myself. So if you want to encourage these kinds of activities, these kinds of trainings, that's a great way to support Jordan, make sure he gets that information to the families who need it. I'm going to give you just another few minutes. If anybody has any questions, you're certainly welcome to either put it in the chat box or just call it out because we're actually running a little bit ahead of time, so we're doing good.
Yeah. And yeah, I just put the link back in the chat box. I think somebody said that they weren't able to see it, but hopefully, there we go.
While we're waiting on those things too, I wanted to let you know that we are doing a family resource center, family resource fair that's going to be going on in October. It is going to be October the 24th. That is a Thursday evening. It's going to be from 5 until 7. It will be at Bearden High School. We just officially heard the actual placement just this week or last week, sorry. And we'll be sending out some more information with our newsletter and also some flyers. So go ahead and put that on your calendar if you don't already have that. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm going to encourage you all to go and enjoy the rest of your lunch. And remember, we will be doing another training in October. That information too will be in our newsletter. That'll be coming out soon. It is going to be Tennessee STEP, and it's going to be talking about advocacy. So we will be doing that the third Monday of October. So we will see you all then. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, y'all too.